Welcome back to the North American LCS. We're about to head into Game 3 between Phoenix1 and CLG. Before we do so, we want to reflect on Game 2, where Phoenix1 came away with the victory. And it all came out of a whole lot of action in the early game. But to kind of, put some, champions to that early game, we're going to take a look at champion select here. MikeYeung, back to the aggressive junglers. I think that's one big thing to note as compared to last week.
And they took it early on, and that kind of telegraphs to CLG, like, yeah, we're going back to our aggressive style. And CLG has a choice here where they can go more control style, or they can go really aggressive in the early game and try and hold it down and just outplay you in the early game. They clearly go for that second option because they take a Lucian blind, which is not something you associate with Huhi right away. They have an Elise, they have a Jhin Janna, so they have a ton of early game power with their only tank being Darshan, and it goes sour almost instantly.
Very much so. Of course, we had that level 1 that netted a kill for Phoenix1. We're going to take a look at the next 2 kills that came in only 4 minutes into the game. 2 for 0 in the bot lane here. Watch the heal baits coming out as Huhi collapses down. MikeYeung basically gains health throughout this entire engagement.
And it's just a big miscoordination where Aphro's forced to flash early. Stixxay walks in to try and bait because he knows he has backup coming. He has to flash out because he's still too early. Then Huhi kind of has to run forward to try and get in. Now there's no flashes to get over the wall out of Stixxay to help finish off a couple of these kills. So there was just a horrible miscommunication there, and we're talking about you can try and go more stable versus early aggressive team comp, and they went the other way, and they flubbed the execution horribly. Braum, the level 1 that you were talking about, one of the strongest level 1 champions, they get the stun off, and Kalista's a champion that's going to snowball super hard, especially when combined with something like a Braum and a Nidalee.
Xpecial piloting that Braum will pick up player of the game again. He initiated so many of those key fights, particularly in the early game, to snag those kills, build that advantage that they could use to push the pace. So now we turn to Game 3, and again, I would say you've already hit some of the points, but for CLG, why are you trying to match someone in the early game when you're just strictly the better team and know you could wait?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday with what we saw out of C9 when they picked that kind of split push team comp, and you're like, maybe they're trying against a lower level team to hopefully find some new strategies and stuff that they can do.
Right.
We found out, through the interview from C9 that it sounded more like they just weren't sure what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Here, maybe the same things at play. They didn't know what they wanted to do, or maybe they did just try and say, let's play a really aggressive style, really scrappy early game style team comp that is not typically what you think of CLG when you think of how they like to draft. Usually it's Aphro on a playmaker and Huhi on some kind of utility in the champion that can help out with the rest of the team.
Right.
Lucian, not that pick at all.
Pretty telling that Darshan is the highest damage in the game and on his own team as the tank Gragas in the top lane. He actually individually played very well in this kind of stomp loss.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Nidalee trying to run wild all over the map. They repeated attempts in the top lane. For the most part, were turned away, and he went for a very unique build where he started out with Catalyst, realized his Jhin was a complete non-factor in this game, was about 2,000 gold behind the Kalista, and ended up needing to go for an early Sheen into Glacial Shroud and then combining that to make the Frozen Fist, as opposed to go for the Righteous Glory, which is the kind of standard first tank item these days, because he realized we don't need the initiation, we need damage.
Right, absolutely. It's important to note, too, that that win there snapped the 6-game loss streak for Phoenix1. If we track their entire trip through the summer split, it was that rise to dominance and hype throughout Rift Rivals, come back and completely throw all that to the side. But it's still important to pick up those victories. When we talk about avoiding the relegation tournament, finishing in that 7th or 8th spot, they still have the opportunity to do so. And a win over CLG would be a phenomenal way to start that final stretch kick.
Yeah, and you have to wonder about Alarin playing the first game as well a little bit, where I understand that maybe there's something you just need a little kickstart for your team environment, but I have a hard time believing that by the time, like you're saying, this relegation tournament potentially happens for them, that I think Alarin will be the one starting over Zig. I mean, Zig has a pretty nice body of work over the course of his career that says he's a stable player who is more team-focused. When the team's doing bad, he tends to look a little worse.
All right, well, the team's already in the battle theater, so let's go ahead and send it over to the casters to get us into Game 3.
Thank you, Dash. Welcome back to the deciding game in this series between CLG and Phoenix1. Both Game 1 and Game 2 have been incredible victories for opposite sides. And now Game 3, it's all about who shows up and who really wants it.
Level 1s, man. Level ones. Crazy shenanigans have been happening level 1 in both games. This time, I don't know what's going to happen. Literally, both teams could be scared of what could happen if they go for the level 1, or they could say the level 1 has decided the game, let's be the aggressive one, because they think the other team is going to be the passive one.
A lot of times you do see teams opt away from those kind of risky plays in the third and final game, especially if they've been the decider in the first couple or even just in one of the first two. So I will be interested to see how they approach that in terms of their philosophy for how to win the game. Bans coming out, though, for this third and final round between these two teams. LeBlanc and Thresh banned away by CLG. Phoenix1 kind of happen to go with those red side givens of Zach and Caitlyn every single game.
Yep. Are they banning Tristana or are they banning Maokai here? Because the Maokai gave him some problems, and that's the Nidalee ban. Back on the board, no more MikeYeung Nidalee.
Nope, they're saying that was a huge differing factor between these. And the Tristana is banned away by Phoenix1. So they're saying the same thing they said in game number 1. You can take Maokai, but you're giving us Kalista for it.
Yeah, they'll take Kalista and probably Gragas here as well, because if you give Maokai and Gragas over, we just saw what Darshan was able to do on that Gragas top lane. And you can flex the Gragas yourself, even though it was a Lorem who played it in game 1. But we saw how much damage Darshan did.
All right, so that's denied. Kalista, Gragas, 2 nice power picks on the side of P1. CLG getting their own big power pick with the Maokai. Again, they lock in the Jhin.
It's exactly the same.
Also going for the Taliyah. Yeah, this is the game 1 draft.
Yeah, the only thing that changed is they dropped the Shen ban for the Nidalee ban. That is actually literally it. But he picked Corki here last time.
Right.
And it was Pyrian playing.
But with Ryu playing, it looks like he might also pick Corki here.
Has nothing changed? Is it all the same?
Deja vu.
Is Pyrian all around the whole time?
It is.
Yep.
Okay. Corki locked in. So far, we've got every single pick a replica of what happened in game number 1. Now that these teams are back on the same sides as that game, I guess you could somewhat expect that, but it's still surprising to go 6 for 6.
Well, this is the team saying, all right, we'll flex the Gragas and the Maokai differently this time, but also you say, okay, the level 1 was the difference maker in that game where the camp got stolen away and then they didn't respect the bottom lane gank later, and that both top and mid had a CS advantage and a level advantage early. So Phoenix1 are kind of making a handshake happen here where they're saying, yeah, we're okay with this because we think it'll be better for us this time if we just kind of use our heads in the level 1 and don't let you just have free advantages.
It's sort of what you were talking about with the scrims, where if the level 1 goes really bad, you just say GG go next and play the next game. Sometimes you might just do a remake of the current one and just say, let's play it again, but we agree to no level 1. So this is kind of like that. Game number 1 was the scrim for Phoenix1 that went really bad for them. So saying, we want to play the same game again, but this time without the level 1 and see how it plays out. Bard and Morgana banned away. Cho'Gath and Renekton banned away. P1 has now their 4th pick coming up.
It was Lee Sin last time, and it didn't go too well for MikeYeung in terms of execution, but is he saying, I'm back on, we can go ahead and do this, and they're going to put Zig on the top lane Gragas? I feel like, personally, you pick a support, you then counter top lane, because you know where the Maokai will go, and I think it's just better to do that in this situation when you're flexing the Gragas.
Seems like P1 thinks the same this time around, grabbing that Braum for themselves, as CLG now has to find both their support and their top/jungle, depending on where they want to put that Maokai.
Yeah, there's been a little difference here in the bans in the second phase. Previously, it was Cho'Gath, Blitzcrank from Counterlogic Gaming, and then it was Fiora and Morgana as the 2 bans for Phoenix1. They throw up the Bard ban, and they pick, because they had Bard last pick, and they picked the Braum early, and the Janna gets picked up again by aphromoo. This did not go well for him last time, but he's saying, doesn't matter, it's still good. But it was mostly the Braum that was the issue.
Right. And also, the Braum, when the Janna doesn't have a flash.
Exactly. That was the thing, is he got kind of zoned out, even though it was a lane where it's double ranged. And all right, double flex pick.
Very interesting with these guys, because now what should be the advantage of having the 5th pick and saying we always get the counter matchup, you could go against either one of these 2.
Yeah, and so right now, you don't know who's going top, who's going jungle for Phoenix1. And so they get to kind of pick, but Counterlogic Gaming are in the same boat. Is it a Jarvan top? Is it a Maokai top? Gnar is like the most neutral pick you can have here, but Kled is more in Zig's wheelhouse.
Looks like we got some Kled fans in the audience too, as Zig ends up getting to play that crazy little Yordle. And it's going to be Darshan's Jarvan that squares up against him. Darshan, as Dash and Mark were talking about, doing a lot of damage, kind of the one man keeping himself afloat in a sinking ship last game. If he can repeat that performance here in game number 3, it'll be a good omen for him and CLG to enter into that tie for first as Week 8 ends.
And now we don't have those aggressive junglers again. We have tank junglers. It's going to be a little bit less explosive in the early game, less snowbally if those 2-on-2s happen. But you're trying to figure out exactly where these junglers are going to go, and that level 1 invade is what matters. I feel like if you are P1, I feel like you run at them. I feel like you run at them level 1. You have Braum, better level 1. I feel like you risk it.
You got Braum, you still got 2 ranged auto attackers that we saw the effectiveness of at the level 1 in game 2. Granted, Kled and Gragas have a little bit harder of a time getting on top of their opponents and stacking those Winter's Bite stacks, but CLG, very surprising loss, especially the way they lost to Phoenix1 in game number 2. Phoenix1 likely ecstatic about that win, but you can't get excited yet because you still have to get this second one, breaking that, what was it, 5-6 game loss streak?
So they broke their 6-game loss streak, but it has been 5 matches since they have won a match. They broke the game streak. Can they break the match streak?
So if they win this one, they're going to start a streak of breaking streaks. Yeah, every single game going to be breaking a streak
don't let
down.
it get broken.
Streaks on streaks on streaks. Everybody running out of that summoning platform.
Streaking out of the base.
Onto streaking out of the base.
Out that way, Flowers.
But look at this.
Doesn't have clothes, but
look at the fan out. I was going to say, Maokai's technically streaking all the time. He's
true.
a treat.
That's true.
But,
Wayne
well, no,
H.
wait,
Made him.
the soccer skin.
Ah,
the
that's
soccer
true, that's
skin,
true.
he does have a shirt on. Or for you EU fans, the football skin. See, I know how to make sure that I'm appealing to all audiences here. As everybody fans out in that 5-point level 1, you're not seeing a bunch of invades. You're not seeing crazy stuff just yet.
But I feel like Xpecial made it into this bush a little bit undetected. He's going to try to round the corner. If he can get a Q onto aphromoo, because I think Arrow does see him, then they could go for something here and push up for seeing what's going on with the level 1. Is it a sapling start on the red? Is it a raptor start? And get some information, because I definitely think that's what they're going for here.
I mean, Maokai's level 1 is really strong because of those saplings, right? But at the same time, it is one that you can glean more information from because of the setup.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens here, what time they invade on. 1 minute and 20 seconds is coming, and actually a ward placed down in just a second. There it goes, and Arrow is going to attack it and give away his position. So I don't think they go for the invade anymore.
Nope, Stixxay and Afro just walking themselves down to lane.
Actually, they might walk up because it's a Maokai solo leash. Yeah, they're going to walk up. Janna's going to be there, and now they're collapsing on the top side here. Ugh! They went for the raptor start again.
All over the place. Darshan and Huhi trying to steal away some of those baby chickens.
They're going to get a lot of damage on Darshan.
A lot of damage. Zig will continue chasing him down. Huhi's zoning Ryu away. This is not a winning fight for Darshan, though. The bear trap on a roll.
He's got so much, and he took W.
Trying to get this all the way. Darshan knocks him off of Scarl, so he's got much more limited combat potential. And now Huhi is there. Zig trying to remount, but the flash for the auto attack over the wall goes Zig. The heal from Ryu to keep his top laner alive.
What's going on in these level 1s? There's summoner spells for the mid laners.
I thought we were finally going to get a normal game.
Nope, no normal games today. Summoner spells, 1 apiece from mid, 1 apiece from the top lane, and then 1 apiece from the supports.
All right, we're in there. Keep game 3 on tempo with the rest of the series, and let's see some crazy stuff. Zig and Darshan both popping those teleports at level 1. Let's do it.
If I'm a jungler, top lane,
I'm going there. No
lane,
summoners,
go
no
top.
summoners, no summoners. And you are a jungler, and I am a jungler.
Yeah.
So we're trying to predict this. OmarGod and MikeYeung, let's see if they go top lane.
Yeah, I feel like OmarGod has a little bit of an advantage because of the fact he started on the bottom side. Now he's going to go buff to buff. Has W level 2. Okay. Is this a level 2 gank? I don't think so. I don't think he does that. Because you usually take W. You take Bramble Smash, do your Raptors or something, take your Q.
Ooh, more confidence in CLG than we saw before. 63% of fans voting for them to walk away with the win on this one. But I think Twisted Advance is percent HP damage, isn't it? So you are just going to go buff. Did they take that away?
Yep.
Oh.
The percent HP damage was moved to the saplings.
Okay, so Twisted Advance just doesn't do much damage.
Yep.
That's very interesting that he would opt for that then.
It does 50.
That's really, really low. That's not much at all. Darshan, level 3 against Zig's level 2. Got quite a wave backed up behind him as well. I mean, he's slightly ahead in farm, but if Zig can farm up even just half of this, he'll be fine, even with Darshan.
Yeah, he'll be in a good spot. Zig played defensively because of the fact that if he pushed up, he doesn't have wards. Blast Cone is going to be something that the Maokai could take, and he knew the Maokai started bottom side, so it would put his route on the top.
And both these junglers honestly bring so much CC potential to the table that it doesn't even matter if you have a lane that has limited CC or limited gank assist, like ganking for a Corki or something like that. You've got enough in your own tank to be able to fuel that all the way to the kill.
Yeah. A lot of CC, and like you said, it's going to be enough, especially when they don't have flashes on the top side of the map. And that's going to be Darshan kind of slipping a cheeky gank in there, or back recall, so he can get some items. And come back to lane with a surprise, because with the TPs down, you get this recall, and you might get an advantage here, and it'll force Zig to... He wants to freeze, but it forces him to kind of push a little bit faster than he would want to, or else he has to push the next wave, and then he's up against the Jarvan that has item advantage.
The Jarvan working towards that Tiamat first item. Both these two need to be going for that.
Yeah, so as a top laner, this is what this situation is Darshan, he can handshake this and say, all right, you know, you have too many minions, I can't trade with you, so this item advantage doesn't mean as much. But, oh, he got knocked back.
Oh, nice.
OmarGod stepped out.
Side pick shove, but Omar shows himself, and it just doesn't work out. Question mark pings. They're not on top of Omar. They're on top of the enemy jungle, though, saying
you know where they
this
want
could
to
be where he is. MikeYeung's not there, though.
Yes.
He's hanging out in the river, getting himself a nice crab dinner.
Yeah, Scuttle Crab picking that up. OmarGod also electing for more combat stats instead of the wards early. So there's more wards on the side of Phoenix1 on that top side jungle to try and keep Zig safe because his flash is still down for a bit. And he wants to push and try to get it back and a recall in.
I can't blame Omar for that either, because buying that early Cinderhulk now that the price point has been lowered does feel so good on these tank junglers. Gives you a lot more clear, especially for the camps that have more units in them, like the Raptor camp. So Omar will expedite his own farming a little bit with that one, as MikeYeung level 5 has a slight advantage over Omar right now. No ganks being super successful just yet, which again, kind of surprising considering that we have seen summoner spells blown early on. But that is what happens when you have the tank junglers compared to those early active guys like the Nidalee, which was banned away by CLG this time after MikeYeung did MikeYeung things in game number 2.
And you want to get that level 6, and yeah, the support's kind of pushing it back and forth. aphromoo trying to freeze for Stixxay after the recall for the serrated Dirk. Now let's talk about this for 1 second, about what this game means for each team, what the match means. Because if CLG lose this, it means they don't go into week 9 tied for first. And there's some worries about, you know, the late season substitution of OmarGod into the lineup, kind of disrupting things when they were at the top of the standings. And they play against two teams that they struggled to beat even with Dardoch.
I was going to say, if you're worried about playing up against Phoenix1, when you go up against Dig and TSM, 2 out of 3 of those teams that have beat you in the past, then you got to be super worried about those. This is a big confidence and momentum issue as much as it is just a let's get the win because winning's what matters issue for CLG.
And if CLG do win this game, though, it means that they do go into week 9 tied for first. But that one game is a bit of a concern, but you can kind of shrug it off because of level 1s and how, you know, it was kind of executed there.
Now, it is also worth stating that Phoenix1 is not locked into 9/10th if they lose here today. They can still escape the promotion tournament and get themselves a postseason potential if they lose today, but it becomes a lot harder.
Yeah, P1 lose, they aren't locked in like you said, but it becomes very difficult. And at that point, if any of those other teams win a game or Phoenix1 don't win anymore, which is pretty likely considering the schedule they have remaining, but they can actually, you know, pull up the standings a bit. But the big thing is they have championship points, and if
they got a lot of them too.
If they lose here, then they can almost kiss that postseason and chance at Worlds goodbye. If they win here, that's a sign of improvement. They break the streak of both match and game losses, and it's all about improvement for Phoenix1 right now. When you're at the bottom of the standings and you're kind of staring down the barrel of not going to Worlds, it's like, if you improve here, that kind of makes up for the entire season. If you can click at the end, and that's what the whole regional qualifier is about, is getting that team that is the third best at the end and saying, this is who is the third best right now in North America to represent at Worlds. And that's what P1 are kind of shooting for here. It's not just avoiding relegation. They still have hopes. They can take down CLG. That's the first step to get there.
And you know, I was talking about this the other day with Pastry Time, saying how it is so strange to see a team that was third and was convincingly third in the spring split, now fighting their way out of 10th in summer. The situation itself is very rare.
Yes.
To have a team trying to say, look, we need to get out of 10th because we want to keep our championship points that we earned in spring. You just don't see that normally. But for Phoenix1, that is the reality. And they've got to make sure they can get themselves away from that if they want to have a chance in the postseason.
Yeah.
Zig tries to charge away, but
What was that?
I think he thought that it would get him out of the Jarvan ulti because everything else does, but it didn't. So he stopped, and then he had to flash.
Yeah, he,
Vayne Tumble does it, but KledR doesn't.
well, he jousted first. So he jousted to try and get away, and then Darshan just used the ultimate. And then he was like, I'm gonna just roll Skarl into the wall.
Get in there, Skarl.
And it was because Huhi was roaming to the top side of the map, and they could see him. Because if you just look at, hold on, MikeYeung on the bottom, Xpecial though.
Tossed forward, but the Fate's Call not finding its mark. MikeYeung steps out of the brush for a split second, so CLG should have seen him right there.
Yeah, here comes OmarGod, level 6.
There was a ward in the brush anyway. They know he was there.
Yep. They spotted him pretty early on. But yeah, these control wards kind of in favor right now of P1, but because the Sightstone has come through for world supports, as well as now you have the jungle enchant for OmarGod. He's getting some back, and now they're going aggressive.
Oh, Xpecial with the flash for the knockup
here's
for the Glacial
Omar.
Fissure, but OmarGod's able to show up and make this a 3-on-3. Trying to get in there and find the damage. Xpecial going to be rooted up a little bit more to find the kill. The Corki
They gotta
call
protect
opens up.
Xpecial at the same
Xpecial
time.
is still being saved until first blood for OmarGod. The spears are rent out of the tree, but it will not find the return kill.
And now Huhi's riding the wall, trying to maybe go for something here. I feel like you just rotate and just go back to mid. Yeah, he's making sure he doesn't lose mid priority. OmarGod, just the power of Maokai. Maokai's base damage
So
on the
strong.
Q. The base damage on the Q is so ridiculous. The fact that if you get hit by spells, your passive goes down and heals you so much. Like, this champion, like, is pretty much just straight up, in my opinion, broken.
Busted.
He is broken. He's so
Maokai
good.
is ridiculously strong right now.
But
CLG
how good is he against fire? It's Infernal Drake.
Let's see
TP.
how this works. OmarGod going for the twisted advance, able to find the CC, get the courage of the Colossus, locking down Ryu.
Darshan.
TP gonna be channeled. Arrow in some trouble now. Darshan on the front line. Ryu still able to stay alive. Zig coming in. The cavalry has arrived, and Darshan will fall. CLG leashes the Infernal Drake for P1.
Yep, they pick it up there. And that's P1 getting back into it. That's a bunch of summoner spells blown across the board. And now MikeYeung with Body Slam Flash available can gank pretty much anybody except for the Janna he has to worry about on the bottom side with the Monsoon. Coming up soon. And also Huhi in the mid lane. Right here, OmarGod's taking so much damage from this, and then he goes in onto Ryu, and then actually gets the interrupt on the Valkyrie there, just barely because of aphromooo's Q. Then Darshan used the Q for poke there. There was no EQ combo knockup and follow-up there. And more high HP members from Phoenix1 in that fight. And you can see Ryu did work there by shredding, and OmarGod pretty much just got twisted advance damage and maybe an auto attack there for a heal.
Yeah. I mean,
Was
you
kinda out of
50
resources.
from Twisted Advance, and then the auto attack. That adds up just about where it needs to be. aphromoo did as much damage as he did.
And one thing that you always have to consider, and it's something that's not thought about a whole bunch, is when you're doing an early dragon like that, people are using their abilities on it very frequently to try and burn it down instead of holding it, because you don't have the tankiness to take the dragon damage and then be like, okay, we'll wait for them to come in. It's like, if you're waiting for them to come in, the dragon is super slow, you're taking so much damage, you're only putting auto attacks into it. So OmarGod is using abilities on it, his team is using abilities on it, and then when you get engaged on, the enemy team has fresh cooldowns to use everything.
One thing I want to touch on real quickly, because we did comment on it last game when bottom lane was so lopsided from the level 1, the gold comparison between the items for these supports, there is 432 gold on the Relic Shield of Xpecial, while the Eye of the Oasis for aphromoo has earned more in that he's got himself 559.
He's also put a lot of gold into it. Hold on, though. OmarGod, they know he doesn't have flash. They're coming around.
He gets the smite. Now, are they going to force this fight? OmarGod stunned,
Monsoon.
brought down, focus.
Oh.
Nature's Grasp comes out, but he's still able to jump further into the fight. It will not save him, though. Arrow grabs the kill.
Yeah,
and
great,
the red buff.
Great barrel there from MikeYeung to push aphromoo away before he could Monsoon and disengage and buy time. Because if you disengage and buy time, Stixxay gets back with his Duskblade, gets a lot of damage into the enemies, and he does have a way to turn around the fight as Huhi was also collapsing. So really, just MikeYeung kind of coming up big there, and now he's pairing up with Arrow. And this is something that we weren't really seeing from the team. MikeYeung was playing to his solo lanes more often than not. He was pairing up with Zig so much, and now if he's going to play towards Arrow, who was MVP last split, on a team that got third, no, if he's getting back into that form, MikeYeung is making a great choice and playing to the good side of the map.
Yeah, P1 also threatening this tier 1 turret for first turret blood. Could be an absolutely huge infusion to gold for this team.
And they're going to go for it.
They won't find it, though. OmarGod showing up, gets rid of them just in time.
Yeah, Huhi, they see him with that ward as he's doing Krugs, but also Ryu is here. Just hanging out on the side. He doesn't have much mana, though, for poke or anything along those lines.
Right, he's not going to be exceptionally useful in this fight. OmarGod, having died in his own jungle, secured his red buff, but then immediately gave it to the enemy AD carry with the death. Not where he wants to be exactly. Kindle Gem in the inventory after the Cinder Hulk, likely going for that Knight's Vow that he went for in game number 1, providing extra protection to either Huhi or Stixxay.
We're seeing Knight's Vow a lot, and right there, Arrow did it again, double rend.
Stixxay getting himself Blade of the Ruined King. Does aphromoo has to pop the ulti, but now he's going to be the one who almost dies flash and exhaust to stay alive.
Oh, that rend didn't reach, didn't get aphromoo. It almost got him.
Unlucky. Arrow not finding that, but instead finding the tier 1 turret, the first blood of which goes over to Phoenix1. They're up almost 2,000 gold at 14 minutes.
And Arrow's doing a great job of those rend resets. Just watching his Kalista is a little bit of a pleasure here because he keeps throwing spears, stacking them up when he has just enough attack speed to throw like 2 to 3 into a creep to kill it, and then he changes over, rends immediately, so it looks like he's CSing, but then he immediately turns onto you, rends as the spear's in the air, so it pops off, resets the rend cooldown, and it slows, and then he advances with the martial poise, the movement speed that he has to get in, and then he's able to rend a second time, so it's back-to-back slows. But that time, it was back-to-back slows, and he got a second reset on the second rend, so he had a third one available, but it just wasn't enough to reach aphromoo, who was just barely able to get away.
Yeah, his Kalista performance in these past couple of games has been really fun to see. And Phoenix1, again, like we said last game, is not looking like a 10th place team going up against one of the contenders for first.
Well, people were saying they didn't look like they were, the 8th place team going into Rift Rivals. Then they lost 5 straight matches in a row, close to losing their 6th potentially here, but they've fallen down the standings from 8th to 10th. And
Nature's Grasp fired off. That was kind of strange.
That's not gonna reach.
Question mark pings thrown down onto that one. From Phoenix1 as CLG's bottom lane rotates towards the top lane, trying to take down this tier 1 turret. They got Omar and Darshan hanging around. Darshan goes ahead and dips on out.
Yeah, he has to go bottom. That's getting shoved in. They get some damage on the top lane turret, and it's kind of just pushing back and forth mid for priority. But that that Nature's Grasp being used from OmarGod, that was actually big. You could have dove. You had a potential chance to go for a play or zone them off the turret. Even just the angle of that was awkward.
Yeah, it was aimed between the turrets almost.
This is the strangest series that I've cast all year.
Yup. This is a very different one from what you would normally expect. But so far, Phoenix1 is happy with that because it does look like they've got a solid shot here at ending that 5-match loss streak, at clawing their way out of 10th place, at getting into the hopes for that postseason. Stixxay farming up here top side. 135 CS to 160. Now he's starting to fall behind. Now Arrow's building up those leads again.
Looks like I Rift Herald kind of faint there.
Shelly just bonked her head into the wall and wasn't able to find anybody. She got tricked. She got bamboozled.
Oh, we should give her like some padded walls, and it's kind of messed up that we're keeping her in there with all those
some
rocks.
mattresses along the edge of the Rift Herald.
Don't hurt yourself, Shelly.
Shelly doesn't end up doing something too goofy. MikeYeung, though, potentially clearing out some vision and setting up for some even more painful experiences for old Shelly. It's just not a good day for her.
Arrow hops over the wall, hop back on the last one, but doesn't actually do it either. You actually, you hop backwards, a little less distant than you hop forwards, I believe. Especially when you use the Q. You hop a little bit further when you're going forward with the Q, and this looks like they're just gonna be able to pick this up here.
Yep.
No contest.
No contest from CLG. Free objective for Phoenix1. Should translate into another turret for them later. Likely that mid, like we've mentioned in the past, because it normally is so hard to get. But when you get 45% of the HP from a single Rift Herald charge, that can change things.
Yeah, and now we're seeing what's gonna happen next, because P1 control the bottom side jungle. They see Stixxay, I believe. Yes, they do. They see Stixxay, who just had his Dustblade cooldown come back up, and he's like, I was spotted.
Like, wait a second, I was standing on this the entire time.
But they're going to lose top turret. At least damage is going to come onto it. Taliyah's coming up. They also have Nature's Grasp going. Ryu has not rotated. He doesn't have teleport. Is this how they get back in? They'd have to use a wall, but it's not going to be able to reach just yet. So just pushing him back by the threat of Huhi leaving lane, which will give Ryu priority.
CLG just not looking like the team that we saw yesterday that was able to work coherently as a unit and find kills that then translated into objectives.
Did I caster curse them? Did I
think
do it?
you might have.
Did I call
think
them?
you put a hex on them.
Yeah, I said
because this is not the same looking team that we saw even in game number 1 today.
Yeah, I was like, I don't believe it where people are saying that they're inconsistent because factually they have not been in their schedule. They've dropped some games here and there. They've actually dropped 4, I think, to bottom teams in total, just game-wise, not match-wise. Now, Shelly will show up mid, maybe a kill on it. It's actually pretty, that's close to half. They're gonna do some damage, whatever they can.
Nope, disabled, finds the charge, but now distracted by the champions means that that will not be a turret secured there.
Zix is gonna be mad. He actually got hit by the cleave.
Ooh, supposed to be able to sidestep that one, but top side, P1 grabs himself turret number 2, brings that gold lead up to 3,000, 20 minutes into the game here.
And now they haven't lost a turret. They got 2 for 0 so far, and this is not what you see from Counterlogic Gaming, where the game is in a state where the gold is equal, and then they get out-rotated or out-macroed. Even when the gold is close, Counterlogic Gaming usually is the team to have those bold calls, but I personally am going to say that aphromoo being on this Janna does not help him enable the team to make those moves. It's in the hands of OmarGod, it's in the hands of Darshan, and a little bit for Stixxay and Huhi, but aphromoo is kind of the one who has to command the troops from the backline, and I just don't think that's his style. I feel like aphromoo is the leader who's
on the front.
Exactly, he's on the front, charging in with the team. He's the guy who's on the horse.
Like, the Janna is such a reactive champion. It's such a defensive champion. It's not a champion you pick to say, here's where we're going, here's what we're doing. Just because your abilities are all save this guy, help this guy, stop these guys. Not get this guy, grab this guy, kill this guy.
Yeah.
Very
aphromoo
different.
He's not a dictator. He's an everyday guy.
Just a cool dude.
Yeah. Oh, looking for Ryu. Oh,
Ryu
the flash
jumped on by
W.
OmarGod. Could be a 2v2 breaking out here. OmarGod firing off the Nature's Grasp, but he's now isolated. Huhi throwing out the wall, but Omar has already been cut down. Now Huhi into trouble. They've lost aphromoo as well. CLG loses too.
Darshan went in.
Gets nothing back. Darshan trying to do something here, but I don't know what he's looking for. Oh, the Cataclysm will be stopped in its tracks. And Arrow goes on a rampage.
And that was 3 for 0. There's pings all around the Baron. I feel like this is risky.
Oh my goodness.
Arrow's gonna have to lifesteal. He has Blade of the Rune King. He's gonna have to pick those up. They're gonna engage. Stixxay got
Stixxay
tagged.
tries to flash, but the winners fight into the stun, but Xpecial goes down instead. Stixxay lives only to be found by the rocket. And P1 still thinking about that Baron.
Yep. Here comes the Janna. Huhi also there. This, though, is still risky. They're stacking up, and now Huhi, that's just for the turn. It's for the turn.
All he wants to do is make sure they can't get the Baron. He successfully completes that goal. He loses his life for it, puts more gold in Phoenix1 hands, but it's not a Baron buff, and that's good enough for them for now. They're down 5,000 gold at 22 minutes, though.
Yeah, it's the vision control is the big part here, because all those control wards that were set up means that you have to face check this. They don't know who all is around. And actually, the interesting part about this is it's the flash W from OmarGod. Ryu gets away, and then MikeYeung actually ate the root for him. And Ryu got to stand on the side, and then Darshan jumps in, but he doesn't really have too much damage at this point. Just the Black Cleaver and the Tiamat. Arrow eats some shots. The heal came out early, and that actually would have been the difference. If he had waited there to use it, he possibly could have been burst down. And then they're just, because all these control wards and these sweepers that are coming out, they have to check here. And Stixxay already got tagged from Xpecial. The CLG kryptonite of Xpecial. It didn't work last time when he just joined P1, but it might be back.
It needed some time to recharge, apparently. That's about all, as Phoenix1 slightly less ahead in gold than they were a couple minutes ago when we mentioned it, but they got themselves another Drake. Cloud's going to provide some movement speed as they rotate around the map and try to continue choking CLG out of the game. They still have that mid lane tier 1 to take down, though. Once they do bring that down, that'll open up some more avenues for them as another fight breaks out. OmarGod going to be
he went in.
Jumps into the fight. Nature's Grasp is down. Arrow jumping around, trying to kite, but CLG health bars are quickly disappearing. Arrow still jumping back and forth. The lock of the Iron Solarius pop. The double kill for the AD carry. Zig gets dismounted. Stixxay still alive. aphromoo very low. Xpecial nearly caught by the deadly flourish. Ryu still putting down so much damage on these lines.
Yeah, everybody's low. It's just who gets the execution, who gets the... Oh, the fight, who gets the better?
Arrow's legendary. MikeYeung, the only one to drop on P1.
Arrow has been playing out of his mind this series. 8-0-1. The last game, 0 deaths as well. And now, you're seeing how this guy got the MVP. Kalista seems to be a champion right up his alley and has been working wonders on it.
Spring Split MVP says, here's what I'm made of. We're getting out of 10th. We're not stopping. Baron, here we go. CLG wants to try to stop this, but do they even have the means? I don't believe they do. Deadly Flourish fired off. Ryu, the one who secures it.
Somebody stood in the way of Deadly Flourish. Thank God.
That would have stolen it.
Yeah, that was so close to stealing it. And as a jungler, I don't want to have to rant the rest of the game about how Baron got stolen by somebody not standing in the way.
You'd have been tilted so hard you were on the floor.
Exactly. Hope you know how to solo cast. They go right onto Arrow in the back line. He hops out, avoids, hops to the left so that Nature's Grasp doesn't hit him, and then mid-fight, Fates calls to re-engage, and then they completely just chase down, and this is just kind of them testing their limits. Arrow is trying to get the wave, pushing it, kills the ward, hops, and then skirts around, dodging the threaded volley angle, and then almost the shield comes out there from aphromoo to try and save, but Arrow just is so far ahead. He has Mercurial Scimitar completed, so now when he uses the active on it, you're actually gonna hop faster when you use it because the movement speed. Hold on, Arrow though.
Arrow, Fates call, bringing Xpecial back in, firing him back into the fight on the front line.
2v4, what?
Stixxay. What are these guys doing? Ryu grabbing the kill onto Darshan though, so it's 1-for-1 so far, but Arrow's still gotta stay alive. The Bramble smash not allowing him to do so as OmarGod now finding the lockdown on MikeYeung, and with 3 dead, including the jungler on Phoenix1, CLG may have found themselves a spot to come back.
Man, what are you doing, P1? They went for the bottom lane dive onto Darshan with 2, and then it was a 2v4 mid that they engaged. He threw in Xpecial.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his ultimate. Or his
balled him in there, but Ryu.
Wait, they're gonna try to clean up.
Out with a rampage, out with a vengeance. The 2 versus 2, Stixxay finding himself removed from the equation rather rapidly.
Doesn't have
Rocket
flash.
fired off, no way out. Ryu unstoppable on the court.
So they get it back 3 for 3 across the board total.
Did I say there's a chance to come back? I didn't mean that. I was joking.
Castor Curse hit
I was joking.
every time. But Baron buff still on Ryu, who got subbed back in. He's been doing a lot of work here. 2 levels up over Huhi. Top lane, Zig, 3 levels up over Darshan. The solo laners and Arrow as well. The carries have been doing a lot this game for Phoenix1. It's made all the difference. But here, engaging and throwing him back in to turret dive as OmarGod comes up. Even if it's a 3-on-2, that is getting too big for your britches. They try to go in, and now MikeYeung comes in, and he just can't actually do much here. That's trying to do damage control. And throwing him in.
Again, aggression in the enemy jungle. OmarGod stunned up, nearly brought down the courage of the Colossus from the flash, but Ryu will still dominate this fight. Root out onto MikeYeung. Darshan in the flank, trying to get his opportunity in here, but he's such a non-factor this game. More damage from Ryu over the wall. CLG is just not doing it. Stixxay trying to run, Arrow in pursuit, the rinse for the slow, the damage comes through, and Xpecial will find him.
And Arrow looking like an MVP again. They're gonna take the inhibitor. There's 35 seconds on Stixxay, 29 on Darshan. This is the game.
From the ashes rise the Phoenix from 10th place. Phoenix1 will remove CLG's hopes of being tied for first. They will find their Game 3 victory, and they will find it in only 27 minutes.
They break the match loss streak after breaking the game loss streak. Phoenix1 hold on to the championship points, and they will go into week 9 with the potential to keep them and go on to the regional qualifier.
Game 1 was a crushing defeat for this team, but games 2 and 3, what a complete 180.
And CLG, the kryptonite of Xpecial, back online. And they did it. They won a game to give fans false hope.
Phoenix1, what a showing in Game 3. We talked about him so much, but I want to talk about him again. Arrow's performance on Kalista was out of this world in Games 2 and 3.
Arrow has been absent all split in my mind. He got the MVP. He felt the pressure of having new teammates, having to carry, having to live up to the MVP name again. And it just wasn't really there for him throughout, I would say, the entire split. And this match was the difference maker. He got some attention early. They were able to go ahead and snowball multiple lanes, but Phoenix1, that was a team victory. And another kind of level 1 shenanigans happened.
Or level 1 shenanigans. Always in this series. Like you said, it was a wild one. There was just so much weird stuff happening throughout the entirety of this thing. And we talked about Arrow, but I also want to give some mad props to Ryu this game. 7-0-7 on that Corki. You saw the damage he was contributing to the fights and just to their team effort as a whole. This is a guy who didn't even play the first game because he's been in that spot where we're talking about where he needed a break, he was feeling burnt out, but he comes back and he's just on fire.
I mean, it's easy to get burned out when you're losing a whole bunch because there's not a lot of good takeaways that you're saying, all right, we're doing well, we feel excited about the next match. Now it's, we feel worried about the next match.
Right.
He didn't play the first one. He's coming in after a Pyrian and a Lorem actually lose the first game, and then they're able to have a level 1 that strikes back, watch it from afar because Ryu's backstage watching it can kind of set up, okay, how are we going to counter this level 1 if it happens again? Happens again. Then they went for a level 1 that blew flashes across the board for multiple members with the top lane, the TPs being down, and then the advantage just kind of went over to Phoenix1 slowly but surely through Roam's potential of having those ganks come through. And I feel like Phoenix1, if they can keep this up, then the regional qualifier is something that they can look forward to. Because that's ultimately what it's about, right? For now, they can't make playoffs. It's about getting to the regional qualifier, holding on to their championship points, getting out of the promotion tournament range, and making sure that they can have a postseason that's not that promotion relegation kind of zone. And really, Phoenix1, improvement. That's the emphasis, improvement. If they can get these 5 members, which haven't played the whole split at all together, then they're able to actually get themselves some more wins, and they may be looking like that Rift Rivals form once more.
Let's take a look at what they looked like in that form in this final fight once more. This is where they won the game.
Yep, just going forward. This is kind of just flexing here. MikeYeung flashes forward. Think he wanted to flash over that wall down below, but still some mechanical things that are not going completely right, but that one goes absolutely right with the barrel. And Darshan TP'd in to try and get a flank here, and this is going for broke. Misses the EQ as everybody backed up, and then it's re-engage time. We almost have the remount there for Zig. He gets it in the middle. And then the flash forward from Arrow. The QSS to just go a little bit faster with the movement speed from Mercurial Scimitar, and that's what you want to see from somebody who won the MVP, somebody who can be a difference maker in these games.
What a victory push from Phoenix1 up against CLG. I really like seeing how quick they were on that trigger pull too, saying, look, this is the fight, this is the game, we're in there. But for more on that Game 3 win, let's check in with Riv and Phoenix1 support.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Great cast on the day. I am joined by Xpecial after they take down Counter Logic Gaming here in week 7 of the LCS. I have to, or up to week 7, I have to ask you guys, coming into this split, there were a lot of ups and downs, and here at the end, you guys are really pushing, finding a way to get out of that relegation spot. How did you come into this week thinking CLG could be one of those teams we beat?
I honestly thought that we were going to win yesterday's games, or Friday's games, and we lost to, I don't remember what team anymore, Equifox. And that really hurt us. And in these games, we just kind of played really loose, and we made a lot of mistakes, and we just kind of won early game. I mean, CLG, they're more as a macro team, and we just kind of out-micro them in the early game, and just kind of won early game, and it's kind of how we won. I don't know, our season's been a mess for sure.
But it seems to be coming together here at the end. The subs you guys have now kind of solidifying a 5. What has that been like, and how have you guys kind of been trying to organize that?
It's I can't even go in too much detail about it because it's just been extremely hectic. We've for myself, I just kind of just try my best and just hope for the best. And there's only so much you can do as a player. And these games, we honestly had no expectations, kind of went in, just try our best, and we won, and it feels good. But at the same time, we're not really at a point where we can be satisfied or even be happy about where we're going to go.
And you yourself, your final question for you, have kind of stated that there's no giving up in this situation. You guys are going to try as hard as possible. What, as a veteran, because people look up to you on the team, have you found in yourself this split that you're bringing to the table or that you're trying to get to so the team can continue to do better?
Well, I've definitely changed my mentality on this team since for my previous teams, I've always been the guy, try to be a role player, try to do my best for the team to see what I can do as individual to help the team. But here, I've tried a lot more to kind of shine and just be more of a carry role, just because I see Ole and see how well he's doing with Immortals, and I kind of want to mimic that. And I just had to switch my playstyle a little bit. And this team, I've joined so late. We had Mike in so late. Everything was just a mess, and I just have to do my best to just see what I can do. It's just all I'm hoping for, just to try my best, and that's all I can hope for.
Well, you guys still have a few games to go in the remaining weeks. A light at the beginning and looks like the end of the tunnel here if you can keep these wins up. Congratulations on the victory over CLG, and we're going to throw it over to the analyst desk to break down that game.
Thank you very much, Rip. A fantastic series victory here for Phoenix1 over one of our second-place teams in CLG. But you heard it from Xpecial. It's not enough for them to feel good about their season or where they are right now as a squad, because they're still just fighting to get out of 9th, 10th place, that relegation zone. Sure, you beat a top-tier team, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're not even going to be able to go play against more top-tier teams in the playoffs, that's a hard thing to kind of be happy about.
Especially coming off Rift Rivals, where you had a lot of hype and you were very excited and you were doing well. You have a couple weeks where you start losing all these games, and it's hard to feel good about a bounce back, considering, like you said, that bounce back is not, oh, we bounce back and we're hopefully into playoffs. It's we bounce back and, well, we still have to battle to get out of relegation.
But let's see what we can learn from this series, and particularly on the side of Phoenix1. I think Zyrene hit the nail on the head when he talked about Arrow showing up here. Once again, our spring split MVP here on Kalista in 2 games. A very, very much so the top performer for the squad and helping propel them to a W.
And it feels hard to criticize CLG because they took the Maokai over it and they've just prioritized that one. And I think that's honestly not too bad. There was the Tristana and the Caitlyn ban, which at that point, maybe you can say you should raise the priority on Kalista just a little bit,
right,
because you don't have the Tristana to take into it. That's fair maybe as a criticism, but at the same time, you won the first series very, very convincingly with a very similar draft. I have a hard time putting too much of the blame on that kind of thing.
For sure, but I do think that the criticism becomes a little bit more clear when we see how the Jhin is played. Again, Stixxay is known as a top-tier Kalista player, and so you would feel there should be a fair amount of priority on that champion, particularly with the bans, and then based on how he ended up playing the Jhin. Let's dive into some replays. 20 minutes into the game, we have an extended fight in the top lane. Phoenix1 are going to come out ahead. 4-for-1. Well, it's almost an extended ace because they do come in to stop the Baron near at the end.
Yeah, eventually all 5 people die, but it starts out with Huhi kind of getting caught out. CLG wants to collapse, but OmarGod so far had a Darshan who did not have a great TP board to get involved, that he dies instantly, and then Zig kind of flies in the backside, helps finish out Janna, and now they're still trying to find some way to just grab anything back on this. Right. They almost get onto Arrow, but he's able to get the flash out there, kite him, and then with those 3 down, that's when they go to the Baron, they start baiting, they get a couple more kills, but this is one of the things that starts giving them their big gold lead, and they're going to be able to keep kind of snowballing through this. And Darshan in particular had a pretty rough game. There was that one dragon fight early on where after they got first blood, they should have been able to get an Infernal Dragon, but he messed up the EQ combo. Instead of getting a 3-man knockup, he gets turned on, and that was like kind of the beginning of this slow snowball.
How many times have we seen minor mechanical mistakes spell the end for a team? And when we look at CLG as a roster, or just as a team in general, I like to associate one word with them, and that word is control. I feel like they're one of our best controlling teams, controlling the pace, controlling the map movement, controlling the minion waves. I feel like they lost control in both games 2 and 3. Game 2, particularly because of the early kills that went over, and now we're just so much on the defensive. Game 3 here, though, as you mentioned, is a mechanical mistake around, a forced fight, and they lose a bunch of kills there.
And that's the thing, is that as these fights kept going on, you kept seeing mechanical mistakes. The 23-minute replay that happened, Stixxay is in a prime position to actually carry this fight. CLG starts this fight off front to back. They get a good engage. They're blowing some resources onto Maokai, not the prime target. They're melting down the front line, and then Stixxay starts running away here and sets up his ultimate when he could have kept auto-attacking down onto multiple members of Phoenix1. And then here is where you see having your ultimate would be immensely useful to try and snipe out some of these backline people that are getting low, but he's forced to run forward and try and auto-attack. And this just ends up in a situation where, once again, multiple people get low. They try and get some more cleanup kills. A couple more people go down. Huhi gets cleaned up here. And then off this fight, they're actually able to go and grab that Baron. And that's really when this game completely turned on its head and P1 was able to take the victory.
Yeah, a few things go differently in that fight, and maybe CLG finds the advantage in it and extends the game long enough to come back. That's not the case. As you mentioned, both top laners actually fairly low damage in this game, but Darshan definitely struggled, and the Jhin pick ultimately didn't net CLG a victory. This, in a sense, destroys that storyline, that we had set up.
Hyping it up
at
all
the
weekend.
beginning of the day. We were like, oh, this is great. Immortals took a loss, which means that TSM and CLG are positioned with wins today to be back in a three-way tie for first. And we go into week 9 with an incredible race for the 2 buys in playoffs. All right, well, now CLG's dropped a game, so it's up to CLG on the other, or TSM on the other stream right now to pick up that win and move into a 2-horse race against Immortals.
I think that's huge, and if you're Immortals, you are so happy that this happened for you. This really increases your chances of making sure that you have that first-round bye heading into the playoffs that avoids some of the more difficult teams that you might have to face in the first round, with the fact that Dignitas is going to end up on someone's plate potentially. Envy themselves, not really a slouch either.
All right, now let's talk about recovery for CLG, though, because of all the games you expect to win in your final 2 weeks of play, this is the one you expect to win, and you go and drop that game. I mean, just earlier this week, OmarGod in the starting position picks up his victory. What does CLG learn from this experience?
I think it's one of those things where you can see that when Afro kind of gets banned out, in a sense, the team really does struggle. I don't think Janna's a bad pick. I don't even think it's a bad pick for aphromoo. I just think that when he himself does not have the ability to pull the trigger, the team suffers. And this time around, they took the Braum, they banned out the Morgana and things like that. He didn't have a great counter. I mean, Janna does win that matchup,
right,
but they already have the Kalista, and then you are unable to find those great team fights where Afro is stuck more peeling than engaging.
Well, especially now, again, that they do have the rookie jungler moving into the starting position, right? It feels like the impetus is even more on aphromoo now to pick the fights along with maybe Darshan, for example, and have OmarGod follow that up, knowing he's got permission from those veteran players. We've got more league action coming your way. Up next, Team Dignitas hit the Rift versus Echo Fox. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
They got to protect Xpecial at the same time. Still being saved until first blood for OmarGod. OmarGod stunned, brought down, focus. Dangerous grasp comes out, but he's still able to jump further into the fight. CLG health bars are quickly disappearing. Arrow still jumping back and forth. The lock of the Iron Solarius pops. The double kill for the AD carry.
Nothing. Go mid, go. IW. Tornado 1.
CLG is just not doing it. Stixxay trying to run. Arrow in pursuit. The rinse for the slow. The damage comes through. From the ashes rise the Phoenix.